come here and celebrate one of our wonderful military exhibits and really one of our relics. This is one of our city's great amenities that draws tourists from all over the region. And we're really glad to celebrate here. We could be on the USS LST 325, but it would be a lot colder, so we're a lot more comfortable here. But we're glad that our friends at the LST are here, as well as the Evansville Museum of Arts, Science, and History. I think most of you know the history of Evansville, or at least some of the history, that during the Second World War, the city produced 167 LSTs, more than 6,200 P-47s, and at one point the city produced 96% of 45 caliber ammunition for the war. We were a shining star for our country. All that led us to be named a heritage, pardon, get the little dyslexia on the name, the U.S., no, I help him here, the Heritage City, World War II Heritage City. Yeah, there you go. I don't know why I have such a mental block about that. Anyway, so we sent this application in 2020, and in December, we got this designation. We had the announcement here, and we're so pleased that all of our partners could join us. When I mentioned this to the Lieutenant Governor, it really made her start to think about how the state of Indiana could build on that and do something even better, not just to promote Evansville or the greater Evansville region, but the entire state. And that's why we're here today, to introduce and announce some really phenomenal news to build on our designation. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce the next biggest cheerleader for the greater Evansville region, Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch.
Good morning. What a great day. It's great to be here with you all, and thank you, Mayor Winnecke, and thank you all, and congratulations on the American World War II Heritage City designation. And as the mayor said, when I heard of that designation and I called the mayor to congratulate him, it got me thinking about Indiana as a whole and what we have done in terms of serving our country. And that actual conversation sparked an idea, and I went to Elaine Vito, the president and CEO of the Indiana Destination Development Corporation, an agency that I oversee, and we had some conversations which has led us to today. So I'm really excited to hear from Elaine here in a moment about this spark of an idea that we think is going to turn into something great for Indiana. You know, when our nation has needed heroes, Indiana has always answered the call. And that includes heroes here in Evansville. World War II, James Gresham, one of the first casualties in that war. And U.S. Army Major and future governor of the state of Indiana, Bob Orr. So Indiana and Southwest Indiana have always produced those heroes. Hoosiers have freed slaves, we've liberated concentration camps, and we've brought liberty wherever we have marched. And Indiana's role in destroying the Southern Confederacy should never be underestimated. Our blood has blazed a trail of victories from the Ohio River to Sherman's March on the Sea. And where we stand today has been an important part in that battle called the Civil War. In many ways, Southwest Indiana was a hotbed of Southern sentiment and support. But Vanderbilt County and our neighbors have supplied thousands of soldiers and sailors to defend our country and to fight for our republic. The 20th century witnessed the war to end all wars, and then the more terrible war that was to follow. And as they had in the 19th century, Hoosiers answered the call of their country. But this time it was beyond our native land. In places like France, Okinawa, Italy, Iwo Jima, the Philippines, and North Africa. And our family, our friends, and our neighbors have never stopped serving. From Korea to Vietnam, from Iraq to Afghanistan, our military leaders know that they can depend on Indiana when we have a need. What is so interesting about Indiana is we are 38 in size geographically, but per capita, Indiana is one of the leading states in sending men and women to defend our country. And we have the 12th most Medal of Honor recipients in the country. 74 Hoosiers have received our country's highest bravery honor. And one of them that I've come to know well is Sammy Davis. Sammy risked his life multiple times on November 18, 1967, to serve and to save 3 soldiers and place them in a helicopter. One was presumed dead. But years later, Sammy was able to hold the grandchild of this soldier who was presumed dead and actually living in that helicopter. In fact, Sammy's bravery was so astonishing that it actually was an inspiration, an inspiration for the combat scenes in Forrest Gump. So congratulations to all of you here for honoring our nation's veterans with this beautiful building of remembrance. And we should always do everything we can to respect the men and women who have worn the uniform and made the ultimate sacrifice. And as you will hear in a minute, that is what we are doing today. Whatever we do, whatever we say, it will never be enough. So thank you for this opportunity to express a few words of gratitude to our Hoosier veterans. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Elaine Beadle, the Secretary and CEO of the Indiana Destination Development Corporation. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, and thank you to the museum for hosting us for this great event. I didn't expect this to happen to me, but I might get a little emotional. I look out here and I think there's several people probably who were touched by World War II. Okay, let me see, lest we forget all those things. So I apologize if I have to struggle through this. Again, did not expect this. This is overwhelming. Okay, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
And thank you for joining us on this beautiful Southern Indiana Day to kind of remember our rich history in our military, but also our patriotism, which is on display here today in so many ways. As mentioned, I'm Elaine Beadle, and I have the pleasure and honor of serving as the Secretary and CEO of the Indiana Destination Development Corporation, an entity that replaced the Indiana Office of Tourism Development. So our charge is to kind of tell Indiana's story and tell all the great things that we have here to the world. And so we're working hard to do that and to get our message out, and our message about what we'll be talking about today in our military history. As Lieutenant Governor has already shared, Indiana has a long and proud history of supporting military men and women, and we are committed to continuing to show that support now and in the future. The military individuals and families of today, as well as those of yesterday, have a story, and it's our intention to tell that story wide and broad. And we won't be doing this alone. IDC is proud to be partnering with organizations around the state of Indiana to help share that military history and get it all right. In the Indiana National Guard, and if we have anybody here who representing the Guard today, the Indiana Historical Society, the Indiana Historical Bureau, the Indiana War Memorials Foundation will all be helping us. And we're also bringing in and reaching out to the Indiana Humanities, Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs, the Indiana State Museum, and others that will play a role in bringing this project to conclusion and continue it on and on. So our goal for the military monuments and museums in Indiana will be an all-encompassing statewide initiative that will include war memorials, historical markers, and we have hundreds of historical markers around the state. Museums and other unique locations that will tell the great state story of our military history. We anticipate this initiative to serve kind of as a chain of information and experiences that will link not only Evansville, what's going on here, but link it to the rest of the state and some of the things that have gone on in other places. You know, for example, you know, we'll have a, first of all, the Monuments Museum itself is going to be hosted on Visit Indiana's website. So you'll be able to go there and see all these locations and everything around it. So it can be like a trail where people can learn about Indiana's military history and the numerous locations around the state that will showcase. So you can think about it as come here and see this museum or this monument. While you're here, go check out all these historical markers and these other remembrances of our military history. So we're going to show important places like those that we have right here, like this significant Evansville Wartime Museum. But the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Coliseum will be on the list. The USS LST 325, Four Freedoms Monument. All of those are going to be important. But think about George Rogers Clark Memorial in Vincennes, the Grissom Air Museum up in Peru, the Tippecanoe Battlefield and Museum, that's in West Lafayette. And there's going to be so many others that we're going to find around the state that we'll be able to showcase and support and encourage people to go. All of these will tell the story of how Indiana has supported our military forces in both peace and in wartime. So you may ask, when will this come about? When will we see this? Well, we anticipate launching the Military Monuments and Museum initiative on a very fitting day, 4th of July of this year. We don't want to wait for that to get it all done. And it's our duty as a state to show our appreciation, support for the sacrifices made for us by our military. By raising awareness, we can help ensure our brave service members and their families receive the respect and the care that they deserve. So we welcome you to engage with the Military Monuments and Museum in Indiana initiative following the launch. So we hope that you'll tell your friends and family all about it. You'll go visit, and then you'll put it all on social media so other people can share and want to seek it out itself. So watch for our launch announcement, which should be, again, late June, but early July. We're sure by 4th of July. So with that, I want to extend again my thanks for having you here, for you all joining us. This has been wonderful. And I will turn things back over to our mayor.
So, Madam Secretary, we have a great 4th of July fireworks show here. So you're welcome to come back to make the unveil right here in Evansville. Yeah, we have it's a phenomenal day. You know, when I sit here, every time I come here, I'm blown away by all the red I see. So I just want to extend a special thank you to everyone who's affiliated with the Wartime Museum. It's always heartwarming to come in and see the smiles and understand that the knowledge each of you have about Evansville's contribution to the war. It's truly phenomenal. For any of you who have not been on a tour of the museum, they are available at the conclusion of this media conference. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of a really special announcement. We were happy that we could be the kickoff site for this initiative. Thanks for being here today.
We're announcing it today. We're going to actually unveil it July 4th. Because we'll have to collect all that, get it documented, get the narrative included, and then be able to unveil the initiative. But we wanted to do it here, announce it, because this was really the impetus of the idea to be able to kind of recognize and honor our military monuments and museums and those crucial heroes that have served. Does that make sense? Okay.
How cool is it for you to be able to announce this initiative?
Well, of course, it's very cool. As I said, I was a local elected official as an auditor and commissioner, and then was a state rep. For the past 9 years, I had an apartment and I worked in Indianapolis. But I come home to Evansville every week, and my home's just a few miles north of here. And so I've always been connected to Southwest Indiana. I've always known about our patriotism. But I've also recognized that we are a very caring part of the state. We We take
Yeah.
care of our own. We're not afraid to step up and to serve and to do what's right. And so to be able to recognize that spirit as an Evansville native here in the Evansville Wartime Museum is pretty cool.
How was that phone call between you and Mayor Lloyd to kind of back that news story?
Well, I mean, we thought it was great
That's a
because
good
we played
idea.
prep. But, you know, it really so much that we do and so much that happens. It's about the relationship that we have. You know, the relationship that Christian men and women have in terms of stepping up and serving. The relationship that I have with local elected officials that when something happens, like that Heritage City designation here, it sparks an idea of what we can do as a state to be able to not just recognize it, but to really kind of elevate it through this trail. And so the conversation with Mayor Winnecke, when I said, hey, remember that conversation we had in December? Well, now we think we can do something and we can turn it into something that's even bigger. And where Evansville can be kind of the birthplace of this military monument and memorial, you know, trail and initiative, I think is, you know, for me, is very rewarding.
And are you hoping that it's going to increase tourism as well?
Oh, absolutely. Because the Indiana Destination Development Corporation, which I oversee, is really about tourism. And so when Mayor Winnecke gave his remarks in December, he said that this is going to elevate and create more tourism for Southwest Indiana. And so when we can take this and elevate it to a statewide initiative, you know, with our military monuments and museums trail, that is just going to encourage tourists to come here and to go to other places in Indiana. But it also will create more awareness of what we have. And so no one will be standing alone. We'll all be standing together with this kind of commemoration and through this trail.
Well, we see several places in Evansville.
Oh, absolutely. They exist now. But what we will do, I mean, she mentioned the Coliseum, the LST, the museum here. And so what we will do is accumulate and work with the organizations that Secretary Beadle talks about. We will gather all those monuments, all those markers, all those museums, and then we'll create a website where people can go and plan a day trip or plan a weekend and actually have that experience where they can go and visit those markets. And what's interesting is Indianapolis is one of, I believe it's the second, probably the second, but outside of Washington, D.C., Indianapolis is the most memorial that any other city about Evansville, and as I said, while we are pretty high geographically, per capita, we have over the past 200 years had more men and women to serve our country than most of us. And so we are a very patriotic state. We have the fourth largest national guard. We just are. Our but to be able to take that, so much of who we are as humans, and to be able to recognize that and allow people to experience that through our military monument and museum trail, I think just tells the story of Indiana, but also helps to commemorate those men and women who have served and so much more.
What was the planning process of this tour like, and how long has it kind of been in the works for?
Well, December, when the announcement came about, and then in December is when I thought about it, and really, quite honestly, it was in January that I called Secretary Beadle and said, hey, is there something we could do statewide? And it had been talked about before, but nothing had ever been done. And so she put her team to work, and they came up with this initiative and gathered all the stakeholders to be able to participate and get us the information. And so it'll take us a few months to be able to put that all together, put it on a website where it's comprehensive and easy for the public to maneuver. And then July 4th, maybe we'll be back here to unveil it.
My question would be, I feel like being from Evansville, everyone that I know kind of has a connection to the military, whether it be their brother or dad. I was wondering if you had any personal connections to the military and what that means to you.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And for my family, for my mother, my father, my grandfather, my grandmother, my sisters, my brother, we have no military experience, none that I am aware of. I'm sure if we go back further than that, there is some, because to your point, everyone has some kind of a connection. But not having that experience, family experience, doesn't take away from the recognition that these men and women who have done so much to ensure that we are here today, doing events like this, being able to speak and say what we want and live in safe communities, it's because of them that we're able to enjoy the life and the liberties that we have, and we need to commemorate that.
Do we know yet how this is going to be, kind of the program's going to be manifest with the website?
It'll be, yes, via the website, but then we will also do promotion and some marketing to make the public aware, and particularly outside of Indiana aware. But it's interesting, just like you have foodies, and just like you have, people that, love the pie trail, and they love the brewery trail, and they love the craft trail. There are people who are very patriotic that want to experience all that we have to offer here in Indiana, and this experience will allow them to do that. So we're pretty excited about it.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
He's been volunteer for 4 years and does a lot of maintenance here. Donna's going to start on the tour. This is Lieutenant Governor Krause, Susan, and
Really?
yes. And this is Miss Beadle.
Elaine.
And
Hi.
Elaine
Elaine.
Beadle. And so, and there's their entourage with them too, and they help make sure things happen the right way.
Okay.
We won't make them register today. Okay? And John will give you this first part, and then we're going to tandem you off. It's 37 minutes, so you only get 9 minutes. That's all. 9. Well, they can't figure all
He runs
day.
a tight ship, doesn't he?
9 minutes, that just threw her off. She doesn't like that. Back it home. Don't go too fast. Just,
Do you want to give it?
I'm getting out of the way. I'm getting out of the way.
All right, well, welcome to the museum. Like I said, my name is Donna. By the way, but anyway, so we like to start with the museum by pointing to the 3 lines up there because they all have a tie to Evansville. The one up here on the left is a P-47, of course, those are the ones that were made here in Evansville. The one in the middle, the turret is B-17, the turrets on those planes. Still in there, here in Evansville. And then the Corsaro, they're the wings, they're made by Briggs here in Evansville. Now, these 2 banners right here tell you a little bit about what this area was like before the war and then how that changed significantly once the war started. So,
I bet they would watch.
oh, sure.
Yeah, that's my purse. It's a heavy
Sometimes you combine the 2.
And that's exactly what it does.
Exactly, I've done that.
It looks heavy. It is. Sarah's on it too. It's very heavy. I should be carrying a heavy person.
So anyway, before the war, things are not looking good here in the city. The economy is tanking big time. Unemployment is high. Population 97,000. A lot of layoffs coming in 1942. But then that all changes as soon as the war hits. The manufacturing jobs jump from 18,000 to over 80,000. The population increases from 97 to 150,000. We had the highest percent increase in the nation here in Evansville in 1942.
Population increase?
Yeah. And it was, yes, and it was the highest producing city per capita in the nation during World War II. Now, last night I found a copy of a speech. It was done by the VP of Sunbeam. He gave it to the Rotary in January of 1945. And he mentioned that 40% of the factories here locally earned an Army Navy E award, which is what that is there, when the average for the nation was 5%. We were at 40%. So we had 15 local factories earn this E award. Almost every one of them more than once. In fact, Boots earned it 6 times. So the first time you get the award, now this is like getting an Oscar to people here across the nation. The factory gets the flag And then if they renew the award, they put a star on it. So the factory that earned.
Yeah, nice.
Now, the areas around here reflect some of those E award winning factories. You have Fendrick Cigar, which was one of the largest cigar making factories in the world, was here during, right after the turn of the century, last century. But they earned an E award. In fact, that building is still here in Evansville today. It's right behind the Lloyd Library, very
And
plastic.
so what, did they quit making cigars and then got into the war effort?
Yes, a lot,
Okay.
well, they did make cigars, but they also made cartridge dies, parts for the LST, parts for the P-47. We don't know exactly what parts. But some of the factories completely retooled. Some of them continued to make some of the product that they did before, or in this case cigars for the military. And others, like Chrysler, I mean, just completely stripped down the factory from making cars to making bullets. And then to refurbishing tanks, like the ones you see in the window there. But you had Miller Parrott that provided baking goods. They earned 4 E awards. Hercules, now that's the building that burned down here last September, October here locally. I mean, that was painful. But anyway, cargo trailers and bodies, you can see some photos down here, some of the items they would have produced. And then this is just the average family during World War II. This was an article published in Look magazine, which was a national magazine, about the average family. That family just happened to be from Evansville, Indiana. So it was a local family that had a mother, father, 2 girls and a boy. The boy was fighting in the war. And then these are just photos of what that family was doing, like rationing, volunteering, how they were cooking, how they were buying clothing, tires, stuff like that. So the son, the oldest daughter, married Hal Boots Jr., who eventually became the president of this manufacturer.
Ah, interesting.
Now back here you see our display to the Evansville shipyard. They earned 3 E awards. Over 1,000 LSTs are made in the nation, 19 shipyards. Evansville produced more than any of those other shipyards at 167. This is a list of every one of the ships and the dates on the progress of each of the ships. So they would start here in the building ways with welding the hulls together. Then it would be launched into the river, and then it would go to one of these outfitting piers where the equipment was then put on board. So, launching celebration for everyone here, and then the broom raising took place once it was tested. They take it for a ride up another river, it passes inspection, somebody on board raises a broom, and that meant clean sweep. So it was ready to be.
And so the reason we did that is we had the Ohio River.
Pardon?
We had the Ohio River.
Yes.
So we could test
Yes.
we made.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah,
1
yeah.
minute advertising, come over here, Nate, confirm between you two
Sorry,
ladies. This is
I always
Nate
said we
Hahn.
have met before. Nate Hahn
Yes.
with the airport.
Elaine Beadle, yes.
Hi, Regis.
Nice
Good
to see you again.
Yeah.
Joel, we definitely know. Good to see you again. But wanted to thank you guys for coming down. I do what I can to support the museum the best I can. But
Thank
appreciate
you.
guys both.
Yeah.
Come on in, we'll get a picture.
Now get a picture, all three, get
And
between.
Mark, you come in here too.
One by Donna, one by
Donna,
some
come
other
on.
people, and John.
Let's get a picture.
All 3 of us. Spread us between the reds.
I know, I really messed up today by wearing the wrong.
It's okay.
All right,
I
all
feel
right.
a
You
little
should
better.
have,
No,
yes.
come on, you can get it.
Let me put my chin down, let me get my chin in and my tummy in. I gotta get 2 things
You
fixed.
go first.
1, 2. He's got a Purdue necklace on, is that all right? or do I
Always.
take it? Oh, my
That's it.
God!
Good with that.
Yeah.
So everybody
We'll
interrupt.
see how this weekend goes.
Yeah, thanks.
Again, sometimes our freshman guards look like freshman guards, unfortunately.
Yeah, they'll do fine, they'll do fine.
But anyway, thank you.
He's helped us out a lot.
How you
Oh, no
doing
problem.
this
Of course.
weekend?
So,
Okay.
yeah, if there's anything, questions or anything we do with the airport stuff, obviously feel free to reach out. Answer questions or whatever we can.
Can we have a quick flight back?
Yeah, right.
Did you fly? No. Drive is fine.
I'm saying, talk to Inbound Aviation.
I know.
Occasionally they'll fly
I
down
know.
for special events.
Yeah, I know.
So anyway, the 2 cabinets on either end here, the one on the left addressed the housing situation that one in the corner. That was a big issue here locally because of all those people who moved in.
Right.
We didn't have any place to put them, so, we finally had some housing balance. This is a map of the area. The red boxes show some of the bigger factories, and the yellow boxes are where they finally started building housing sites close to those.
Are there any of those housing developments?
Yeah, some of them are still around.
We don't little houses for everybody?
Well, they were, let's see, here's some photos.
Okay, like theirs.
Yeah, they were just, building. I think there's one off of, close to the west side post office, Anchor Court or something like that. I think there's some down there.
Okay.
Not sure, but, I mean, I know where they originally were, but I haven't gone out there and checked yet. This one addressed ferry pilots, the women who flew the planes out of Evansville and got them to the coast so they could be shipped to be used in the war efforts. So most of the male pilots are out fighting the war. That didn't leave too many people, I mean, and there are factories all across the United States building these planes. So they started using female pilots.
Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they were never considered part of the military, and they got no benefits, even though some of them lost their lives flying these planes. And it wasn't until about 45 years later that they finally passed a bill that allows them to be buried in Arlington Cemetery. Ashes only though, because apparently it's so full that they won't take bodies anymore. Now here are 4 more big factories. Servell, one of the largest manufacturers before and after the war, building refrigerators, and then there's a list of what they did during the war. 5 E awards, which are cardinal 5 E awards. This is the first plastics engineering company in the United States, and it starts in Evansville. So yeah, plastics started here. He got the technology, Thomas More, who was the founder, from Germany, brought the machines back, and then started plastics here. And that's where a lot of the, what you see, the turrets and the mobile top canopy on the P-47, some of that made here. Briggs, they're the ones that did the wings on the Corsair airplanes. And then Boots Manufacturing earned 6 E awards. They made jerry cans, practice bombs, powder cans, anchor chains, a little bit of field cooking units. And this is a display honoring Carl K. Connect, who was a big name here. He came to Evansville right out of college around 1906, retired in the 60s, but he was the lead cartoonist of the Evansville Courier, which was the morning paper at the time. When he retired, over 18,000 of his cartoons were archived at the University of Evansville. He's also one of the co-founders of Mesker Park Zoo, and the first elephant was named after him, Kay the elephant. And in a lot of his cartoons, you will see an elephant, by his signature.
Interesting.
Now, these are actually 4 original Carl K. Connect cartoons that had a Red Cross theme, and they're the ones that have loaned those to us to use in our displays about Carl K. Connect.
Nice.
This is Charles Colter, he gave us his car, loaned his car to us. This is Jim with the first. Look at the inside of it. The interior he had to get from Europe. This is Jim for Maurice O'Connor. That's Judge O'Connor. He has a brother named Dickie who lives in Seattle, and he gave us these 2 guns. These 2 guns were made in China. What happened? I didn't know that. These 2 made in China. The Vietnamese were mad at the Chinese because they weren't making enough guns. So China went to Russia, picked up 3 factories, moved them to China, and made these guns. So these are Chinese-made guns in Russia for the Vietnamese. So this is all Vietnamese exhibit. This is just the designs. That's the big gun, the M16 they use in America. So that was lighter than previous guns. That's the longest gun ever surviving in the U.S. military history. AK-47 was the enemy used that to hold 30. This is only hold 20. They said the AK was a little bit better. The enemy had that when we shot a bazooka. Typical things people wore. If you see, the other guy has a parachute on the front, a parachute on the back, because this guy's a parachute. Good back for the war. This guy's Larry, a guy named Ted Pritchett. He gave us these 2 exhibits, put them all together. So he's a Bossy High School graduate, 62. They were Bossy High School, 65. So got a Bossy support. This is what a Vietnamese lady would wear, a gas mask, and this is the troopers that they would wear. So these guys have done a lot for us, and Bossy really supports us. Now, Don, talk about these guns here. I don't know anything about these guns. Start at the top and go down or whatever.
1942 Turkish Mauser. See where it says based on the design from Mauser to Works in Germany. But basically, these are all the Axis weapons. The MP40, that's Germany, 9mm. And then you got an Arasaki Type 99 rifle. I forget the caliber it's shot. Basically, these are all the enemies. That's a long nose Luger, that's a short base Luger, Samurais, and the infamous Nazi flag.
So the one thing we're going to take with the Americans flag,
You see that's a bolt action. You get one shot at a time. Except for that machine. One shot at a time. From the American, it's 8 shots.
I can't hit
And
it
it's
by one.
semi-automatic.
So over here, and even England, and even Russia were bolt action. Which one's the American one? Has? That's the clip you put in there, so you get 8 shots instead of 1.
Shove down.
Big difference. And everybody else is antiquated. So America did have the advantage of that rifle. That's another M1 Garand that popped you from 300 yards.
Molson Nagant is the center one. That was the Russian rifle. And then they got the Lee Enfield rifle, which is British.
All weighted pretty similar. They're all too heavy for me. I wouldn't want to carry any of this stuff. We're going to go to our World War I museum, but the Hornet, remember that's the Hornet is what the Doolittle run, that was in April '42. That was the first counterattack to Japan. And they landed all those, some of them landed in the sea, some of them landed in China, they all ran out of gas because they started to hurt them too soon. They're the PT-109, JFK was on that.
USS Indianapolis brought bombed 2 locations and turned went back to toward the U.S. The Japanese sunk. A lot of lives were lost.
And the museum up in Indianapolis is unbelievable. They have pictures on that. It is the best. The one in Richmond. Yeah, it's on the second. First one, they got 2 or 3 wins on it. They do a great job. We just went to U.S. and there were 4 ships made by Indiana. That's not Indiana name. We have 4 ships named more than World War I. We just pushed the USS Indiana into the water in 2018. We were there. It was the USS Indiana. It was a submarine, and that was that's our 4th ship named there. The other 2 I can't remember. So these are all models. Carson, if you go see in the other room later, I'll tell you about Carson. But Camp Carson, Carson Center. Carson flew in World War II, but his dad was the vice president.
I went to Curry for Curfew. So, yeah, 30,000 employees at the tournament center.
It's your turn.
Oh. This right here, the statue called Spirit of American Doughboy. After World War I,
You just have to design it.
Legion posts started springing up with all the veterans coming back.
I just thought it would be
So one of the things that was
maybe put a
commissioned,
window in it somewhere.
over, I think it's over 200 of these were commissioned. This is solid copper. And this was actually in Sunset Park. 37 flood, it disappeared with the flood, but they did find it in the Ohio River and brought it back. Yeah. So it had a lot of people really, they restored it and everything, and then this was in front of a Legion post, and then they decided a good place for it was right here.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the Legion post it was at, it's called the Funkhauser Legion post, and that's named there because there was 2 brothers that ended up dying in World War I, but they were from Evansville.
So what happened to the other 199 so it's around the country? Just in
Yeah,
different
some of them are
parts
still
of
around, some of them, you know, just over the years, but we're lucky to have a very good version. Now, obviously, the rifle, I think, still in the river somewhere, and the hand, but we were able to get that back.
Nice.
So right through here, we've been doing a lot of additional work in here that were Evansville natives. Like here, you've got the Funkhausers, the timeline on when they were killed, and things like that. In this corner is dealing with James Gresham, which he's one of 3 soldiers that were the first American soldiers killed in World War I. And he was buried out here in a cemetery, and then they converted his headstone to match more of the Arlington, you know, with the cross, those types. So then this,
The original one.
yeah. So this is the original one from 1921 on his grave. So if you look around here, the themes we have around here is we've got the timeline. This sort of shows where some of these different things happen. Over here is sort of themed of the American soldier. You can see the gas mask, which was very important in World War I because they did have gas warfare. You can see the silent helmets, some different things people brought back. The 1st Infantry Division was the division that James Gresham was in. Frank Moore, he was an artilleryman in the 1st Division. These are some of his things that were donated. Okay. This cabinet here emphasizes support personnel, nurses that went over to the, in the spring of 1917 and into the summer of 1917, had a call for nurses, and they set up these medical units over there in France, and some Evansville natives went over there with that. This cabinet over here is dealing with some things, items that people brought back. We've got an example of a German helmet and gas mask there, a French helmet, and some other artifacts there. This cabinet here is a local person that lived in Englefield, Indiana, just up the road here. But he was drafted in 1917, and his Michigan regiment went to Russia, one of the very few units that went up there, and it was to guard the ports up there where we was bringing a lot of material that was helping the Russian effort. And they had their civil war, and politically we wanted to keep all that material from falling in the hands of the Bolsheviks. So his regiment was up there from the fall of 1918, after the armistice, all the way to the summer of 1919. And then we have an example of a tanker's uniform.
Here's first of the presidents that would come out to visit there. He's a superb talker. He's come out and talk at that time. But the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, we have 1.2 million soldiers lost in all wars. Probably half of them are unknown because of the Civil War. So we don't know a lot of the people that saved our country. So it's a tragedy, but the tomb there, they picked up a Vietnam guy and pulled him back out because they found his DNA. So you have a Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, you have World War I, you have World War II, and a Korean veteran buried in Washington, D.C. But that is a ritual that we're going to have the first weekend. We're first weekend people. You might say,
I do that once a year.
And if they do, it's a mystical thing. It's about a 15-minute play, the smoke, and they go to poems, and they talk about the ritual. They started in Washington, D.C. in 1921. So last year, or the year before, was a 100th celebration. France and England did it a year before. They did in 1920. We started in 21. And they brought this guy's body back. Went through Virginia, went to Washington, D.C. There were 80,000 people looked at the rotunda, had him in the rotunda, and then they went to the cemetery, which was very, very significant.
Did you talk about the
Here, we won't spend a lot of time, but you may have heard of Alan Sanderson, you may have not. He was from Evansville. He passed away a little over a year ago at age 99. He flew 118 missions in a P-47 in World War II. He moved to Evansville to get into the finance industry. He moved to here in American General, one of the companies that moved him here. He became a leader in the community. He was very instrumental in founding this museum. We have a picture of him somewhere with a paint roller in his hand painting the walls in this area. And he also was extremely instrumental in bringing the P-47 to Evansville. Since he was a P-47 pilot, he thought Evansville should have a P-47. And he almost bombed the Leaning Tower of Pisa. He told me that story. He had his wingman not said, "Don't do that, Sandy, I think that's the Leaning Tower of Pisa." We couldn't visit it today. He said, "I just wanted to the German battling the base of the tower, shooting at them." So he went down to take out the battery. But his wingman saved the Leaning Tower. Wow. So we're going to move to this case. This is a Hoosier, General Schwenker. He joined the Army, served in World War II. He went to Purdue, graduated from Purdue, served in the National Guard for over 50 years or 60 years, became a general. And we had his collection, his family brought it. Nice. So it's a well representative of the state of Indiana.
Look at all those medals.
Yeah.
Ribbons.
Went from being an enlisted man in World War II to a general in the National Army.
Yeah.
Indian. In this area here, we're starting to do more featuring about lesser known action in World War II called flying the hump. The hump was the Himalayas between India and China. The Japanese had cut off all ports in China. We couldn't get them by ship. We couldn't get any supplies into the volunteer group, Michael Tigers, March, and Marseille. Then the Japanese cut the road on the way to China. In the United States, along with Britain Smith, started the first airborne airlifters to fly the entire Army country by air. And so it was a massive undertaking. And I know it pretty well because this is my father's plane landing in China. He was a crew chief on C-46 cargo planes. They did indeed sometimes load planes with elephants. This is my father's V-mail Christmas card to my mom, his fiancée at the time. And he did that quite a bit. Now we have, this is Ellis Carson, who was a well-known industrialist in Indiana, in Evansville. He had a huge collection of model airplanes. It was in the airport. The cases out here came from that collection. Irv Levine served on the hump. He was a LORAN navigation equipment operator. So he was set up on India side for a while. Then they flew him over to China side.
To navigate the planes.
And they would send navigation.
Right.
Early on, they just used beacons. And it was, Japanese would try to set up false beacons and stuff. They lost over 600 aircraft, well over 1,000 crewmen. My dad was 85, told us he had to bail out one time. Had never told us that story.
Yeah, they didn't talk about it much.
Now, and this is a flight suit, flight jacket, leather flight jacket. It has this, you see painted on the back of it, they call that a bloodshed. Now, oftentimes it'd be silk and have 3 different languages. Chinese, Burmese, and I'm not sure what the other language is, part of China. That was to tell somebody, if you bailed out, the natives, to tell them, I'm a friend.
Right.
Don't take me to the Japanese, take me somewhere to protect me. So that would be on the back of the jacket.
Wow.
This jacket belonged to Mr. Lloyd Draper, Captain Lloyd Draper. His case is behind you there, and we have some of his mementos over there. And if you look at that cap, the service cap, you see how it's bent down? They call that a 50 mission crush. That happens because they flew with that hat on, not a helmet or anything. They flew into this hat a lot of times at a time, and they put their earphones over top of their cap. And that smashed the sides down, became a 50 mission crush. There's also a photograph of a C-46 that he flew in that case. Yeah. There's a stopwatch, there's his logbooks laying on the bottom there. And this is a 3-volume set of books that were published by the Hump Pilots Association with memorabilia of everybody who was over there.
And Lloyd, he died about 3 or 4 years ago.
And
we interviewed him, we put him on YouTube, but he would say, most of them, they won every 3 to 10 minutes, one flight. Whether or no weather, every 3 to 10 minutes. Every 3 to 10 minutes, that's
I can address that. General Tunner was brought into streamline this operation. They had, my dad got here, he was a mechanic of a flight of 3 airports. He was chief mechanic for a flight. They always used the same airplane. When Tunner came in, he says, no, we're going to run this like an airline. Flight crew has to rest, airplanes don't. So they started a rotation basis. They set up maintenance lines, assembly line maintenance. And then they would just come tap you on the shoulder and say, you have a flight captain. And you would get on a plane, you may not have ever flew with a co-pilot that you were on there with before. And then another thing General Tunner did, to address what you just said, he issued an order at one time that said from this point forward, there is no weather over the hump. They didn't check weather reports, they just took off.
Wow.
And I read in a report, a story, the guy said they would put a searchlight at the end of the runway, pointed straight up so they could see the cloud deck when they took, I knew where the bottom of the clouds were.
But, yeah, you got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for both your time, and hopefully this has been informative to you. These volunteers do a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great.
I got involved with the work plant. I built airplanes, my dad was in the Air Force. I was
Yeah, nice. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
Pleasure.